Yeah, I think self-help has kind of become a topic that's clearly being more and more discussed in the past, recent years with, just the information age just being readily available and people kind of wanting to feel, more accomplished, rightfully so, in this day and age, right? I think that the space currently contains a lot of different gurus across YouTube, across, whatever the case may be, other platforms, podcasts, books, authors, discussing things on just how to improve your daily life and kind of achieve the things that you're looking to achieve or just kind of get into the mindset that you need to get into. But I do think there's specific things that these self-help things, these self-help content atmosphere as a whole, just kind of I feel like don't address or don't take it seriously enough as the specific aspects of actions. By actions I just mean like, hey, you this is what you need to do to be successful. This is what you need to do in order to get to the place that you want to be at. You need to wake up early, you need to make your bed, you need to, whatever the case may be with things like that, which can be necessary. Some of the things I definitely think are kind of more one size fits all or not for everybody, but definitely some of the things like working hard, just like arbitrarily, kind of is intuitive across the board with that, and kind of working smart, obtaining knowledge, things like those aspects are fairly touched upon throughout the self-help realm, which is kind of a lot of things that seem redundant across multiple platforms. And that seems to be the aspect in which kind of everyone is taking their is kind of focusing their whole framework on it in terms of understanding things and being self-help conscious, right? I think the philosophy and the psychology piece of these things, though, is where a lot of the conversation should start with, and it's vastly, in my opinion, more important than the actionables things that you can do. And what I mean by that is kind of the your belief system, um, um, how you view yourself, the things that you engage in on a daily basis are the pieces that are most important in terms of kind of shifting that focus, shifting that mindset to be able to do these actionable steps. So for example, the good, like, the best example I would have to say is the alcoholic perspective, like a person who's a recovering alcoholic. A method that's commonly used across rehab practices is the mindset shift of kind of going from drinking alcohol on a daily basis to no longer partaking in alcohol, and that shift can be so vast and drastic that it's kind of difficult to just use willpower alone or like just practical physical actual methods to shift away from that, because addiction like that takes over your mind, your body, your spirit. It kind of reincarnates who you are through this substance, right? And I think what people kind of fail to realize is that when you fully immerse yourself into something, that the brain is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. So what that means is, your brain is is much stronger than your body. Um, and the example I like to use for that is the placebo effect. So the placebo effect, I'm sure a lot of you know, let's say there's an experiment which has been done obviously for a long time on rats, humans, whatever trials that may be. You can give somebody a fake pill, give them the idea of these symptoms. Like, you can give someone a pill that does absolutely nothing to them, but say, hey, you're gonna experience nausea, you're gonna experience, like, psychosis, you're gonna experience all these different things, and due to the certain things, the way your brain is structured, it can literally physically make you believe that you have these symptoms, and it will show physically based on what your brain intook and information of what you believe that it was supposed to be. So that's the whole belief system thing. you believe this, so it then spawns this energy, in which makes you think that you're aligned with these symptoms, which you're absolutely not, right? So with that, with all that being said, um, it's kind of important to understand that the mind is much stronger than the body. And the going back to the alcoholic example is the willpower shift of just, just letting go of alcohol without doing the, mental gymnastics that is necessary in order to kind of get over that addiction. uh it creates friction because, your mind is so tied to the identity of being an alcoholic. So the only way to kind of remove yourself from that friction is to shift the mindset, is to, like, I'm no longer an alcoholic. Things like that. You have to reframe your brain. You literally have to rewire your brain. Tell yourself that I don't align with these things. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't drink alcohol. That's for other people. This is not something I do. This is gross. This doesn't align with who I am. This isn't a part of my belief system. It's not a part of my moral system. It's not a part of my principles of who I am as a person, right? And I think that piece, this whole dynamic of it is shifted away to the physical aspects of it, which clearly we understand in terms of beating things like addiction doesn't really work. And what we need to kind of understand, and I don't think is really spoken about enough, is the things that we've done up to this point we're addicted to. We're addicted to not working extremely hard. We're addicted to not, having to wake up at a certain time to get work done. We're addicted to, doing all these things that are not, directly correlated to the goals that we might have, the aspirations that we might have, because where our mindset lies. Um, so the important thing that people need to do in order to actually do these actionable steps that they rely on a lot of self-help content, books, or whatever the case, what have you, is to shift that mindset into a place of where you can identify with what you're doing. So if you want to be, a business owner, if you want to go to the gym more, whatever the case may be, you have to shift your mindset into that. um and inherently it makes sense, like, without even having to go deep into any psychological connection or physical connection of the biology of what that inherently means. The aspect of just kind of understanding this is who you are will more likely kind of just physically put you more in line to do things that are associated with that person. I think that kind of inherently makes sense. For example, if you truly believe you're an athlete, if you truly believe you're an athlete, and like a high performing athlete, or whatever the case may be, you're more likely to do things that are in line with what an athlete does. You're more likely to go to the gym. Why wouldn't you? You're an athlete. You're more likely to eat, more nutrition filled meals that, would fuel your performance as an athlete, because you're an athlete, right? It kind of is common sense. It's kind of it makes sense to be one and one, right, with each other. And the thing is with that is, once you kind of have that mindset shift, once you shift to that, ethos of understanding, okay, this is who I am, the actionable steps become a lot more easier to kind of adjust to kind of shift towards, right? So, for example, if you wanted to be a business owner, right? It's going to be more and more difficult to become that business owner that you want to be if your mindset is telling you, like, okay, I'm not this business, or I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just a regular guy who wants to start a business. I'm just a guy who you're always going to be that regular guy who wants to start a business. Then you're not going to be a business owner. You're not gonna have that mindset of a Jeff Bezos or an Elon Musk, or a Steve Jobs. I'm not saying that's what should be done. Like, is that you should have that mindset. But what I am saying is that you should believe that that mindset is attainable, and that you should shift towards that mindset in terms of believing that you're able to do what you want to do, which, many of us are put in a box, whether that's, what the society thinks that we can do, the people around us think that we can do, even who we, as a person, as ourselves, think that we can do, which is if you really think about it, it's kind of silly. I mean, you know, you're the only person who kind of understands you to the full extent. You're the only one who lives with yourself, has the consistent thoughts that go through your head, and you know, understand some of the capabilities you can do. And even then, you're limiting yourself because you probably don't understand the things that you can do vastly, right? Because of all the limitations that are set around you. So your belief system is that. And once you shift your belief system out of that, and that's why people say, you know, you should cut out all these people that are negative towards you, things like that. You know, it's killing. It's true. I mean, true in the sense that, like, if you keep feeding that to your mind is going to start believing whatever is being fed to you, no matter what. I mean, it's just inherently how it works. The subconscious mind is more powerful than your fully conscious surface level being of who you are currently on the day-to-day basis, and who which you act or interact with people. But when that subconscious mind is continuously getting fed by the conscious mind, the surface level mind, that rewires it and kind of makes it whole with who you are as an identity as a person. I'm not a psychologist, but this is kind of inherent, and some of the things that I've learned when it comes to psychology, right? So the only way to kind of shift out of your mindset is to shift that subconscious belief. Now, you might be wondering, how can we do this? How is this possible? Is this possible? Can I do this? This sounds difficult to kind of shift that. And it can be difficult, right? But it's really what it comes down to is reinforcing what you want to be, reinforcing your brain to tell it the things that you've been the kind of opposite of what you've been told throughout your whole life over the years, whether or not the case may be, right? If you have some children, if you have kids, if you continue to tell them, hey, they can do whatever they want, they can become whoever they want, they will start to believe it, and they'll be able to do these things. If you continuously tell children they won't be able to do these things, obviously there's the few that overcome based off of, you know, their internal belief system of what they can do, literally. Then you know, they most of the time they don't become who you know, they don't believe that they will be, right? So the shift is just rewiring itself, focusing on rewiring it, and just kind of believing it. And it's not a belief, it's um a belief system. It is, but inherently it's more of just like a foundational step, a necessary foundational aspect of the whole entire thing. So you have to wake up saying, I am a business owner. You're not going to say, I'm going to be a business owner, or one day I'll be a business owner, or one day I'll do this, one day I'll do it's I already have this. So if you already have that, all your actions, all your goals, all your aspirations, all your things are going to kind of align to that lifestyle that you to obtain who you are, to be who you are, you know. Um you know, you can't be if you don't think you're a father, you're not going to do things that a father would do. But if you think you're a father and you know you're a father, yeah, I mean, obviously you see a kid that you've made, and you're like, okay, hey, I'm a father now. That belief system can switch, but you know, if you don't believe that you'd be a good father, then that might align with other things, aligning with maybe fathers that aren't so good. So that's the next piece. There's the belief system on who you are and who you need to become, and then there's that other aspect of are you a capable version of that? So let's say you want to be a doctor, right? You're in medical school, you know, you're going through all the things, and what so that what entails to become a doctor, right? Um, you can become a doctor. You can, you know, be a doctor with all your peers and things like that. But let's say you want to be the best doctor, right? If you want to be the best doctor, you're doing different things than whatever a person wants to just be a doctor is, right? Is doing. You're, you know, seeing how all these different things connect. You're going to the next, you know, step. You're doing more than what's minimally required in order to become a doctor. You're doing what is required in order to become a successful doctor. And that's what it is. You got to do what's required to get to these steps, and that's all surrounding the belief system. So becoming the best doctor, becoming the person that, you know, that everyone thinks is the best, or that you think is the best, all surrounds that ability to become the best, right? So there's two pieces, two aspects to this puzzle that to become whatever it is to take to get to those actionable steps that, you know, self-help videos, self-help gurus kind of preach on. is not only that mindset shift to become the person who does these things, athlete, business owner, doctor, recovering alcoholic, or non-alcohol drinking person, whatever the case may be, to actually, have that full mindset shift. It's not only becoming those things, but kind of also that additional step of being the best at that. I'm the best at those things. It kind of gives you that larger threshold. So, becoming that person, and then becoming the best at that gives you that larger threshold, so you don't become or go lower than, you know, uh no longer becoming a doctor, no longer being a business owner. If you're the best, the fall is much further than if you were just that person regularly, right? Just a regular business owner, just a regular doctor. If you're the best doctor, it's harder to no longer become a doctor when you're the best, right? The barrier of exit becomes larger, right? Um, so the thing is, with all those aspects, that psychology, philosophy, peace, once that's connected, like I've been saying, the actionable steps become much easier. And that's something that's, I feel like is not talked about enough. I think it's more important than the actual steps which it takes to do these things. And obviously the steps are important, but I think it's also important to realize that that mindset shift and the philosophy aspect of it is what actually keeps you going. It's not the willpower, it's not the motivation, because obviously everyone knows that kind of shifts away, that kind of goes away. And it's important to, to understand, like, okay, there's this 1% of people that can achieve these things. Why are they able to achieve these things? We all know what to do. We all know that we need to work hard. We all know that we need to, work smart. We all know we need to be innovative in order to get to the things that we want to be. Like, we're not dumb people as a whole, right? We might just be just surface level thinking about these things. And these people who are getting to the 1% area are doing what exactly is required to get there. Maybe it's subconsciously because they've had these beliefs kind of like inside them through the passion and drive, or whatever the case may be, inherently. But I think that's an obtainable thing by a lot of people. The issue with it is what resonates with you fully. If it takes a long time to maybe resonate that belief system, to shift that belief system, to rewire that, I think that shift can take a lot longer for certain people than others. So the issue is kind of what is going to make you flip that switch in order to get to that place where your belief system is surrounding where it needs to surround. And that's the piece that people seem to kind of overlook, and kind of like, chalk it up as, oh, this person's lazy, this person's unambitious. It's really the belief system, and it's how buried in the other system that you're currently residing in that you are. Um, but that's the steps that we need to take for those, is to get into that correct belief system, is to become the athlete that eats the right things, that does the necessary workouts to become the athlete that they want to be, the best athlete, right? So you need to do that mindset shift. And it's more like, am I capable? Like, people are like, oh, am I capable of doing these things? Is this the person that I am? Whatever the case may be, right? And you got to ask yourself, right? Is if you aren't capable of doing these things, if you're not the person that's capable of doing these things, your belief system is flawed. You have no idea what you're capable of in all reality. People didn't, like, think they can't do certain things, they're not able to do certain things. In all reality, you have no idea. You have no idea what your limitations are. Most humans are never ever ever going to even reach anywhere close of their limitations, in which their capacity is full. That's physically, that's mentally, that's, we can, as humans, we're a lot more resilient than we think. And the issue with the resiliency is that we don't understand that our brain is a muscle, and the less that you use your brain in terms of, kind of overcoming certain things, the weaker that it can become, right? So, like any muscles, like if you're, trying to grow your physical muscles, you have to weight train or whatever the case may be, or, not or, and you have to fuel your body with the right nutrition in order to build a habitat and where these muscles can grow, right? It's the same thing with your brain. It's a muscle. It can be calloused, right? um, when you provide your brain with discomfort, just like muscles in the gym, when you're discomforting them, you provide your brain with discomfort, it provides your brain with growth and inherent growth. And if you feed your brain the right knowledge, you feed your brain the right aspects, you're giving the brain the right things, that creates the habitat in order for these things to grow properly. And over time, that builds you into that physical change mentally in order to become the thing that you're trying to become with all the aspects that you're kind of throwing at your brain, right? Um, yeah, I feel like that piece in terms of self-help, in terms of what is being talked about in the community as a whole, and I've delved into quite a bit of self-help information throughout my life. I think that is something that is clearly not talked about to the degree that that it needs to be, right? In terms of kind of critically thinking about it, because I think that a lot of people are not understanding, like, okay, I'm doing all these things, but why, right? Like, maybe you can surface level understand why you're doing these things, but the subconscious piece, the subconscious brain is not understanding why. It's just like, oh, this is not comfortable for me. I'm not doing this because it's not comfortable for me. It's weird. But until it gets to a point where it's rewired and understands why it's really doing these things, that's why people say, oh, you got to find your why it's doing these things, then it makes it easier for your subconscious to align to these actions more physically, and more seamlessly, right? And I think the why thing, to find your why, is important. That's the important piece. And if you kind of have that identity shift, the why goes away. And in terms of go away, I mean it goes away in the way that it's like, okay, that why isn't a barrier anymore. It's like, it's almost a silly question. So like, let's say you're training to be an elite athlete, like you're already an elite athlete, and then your brain like that why comes up, like, why are you training to be an elite athlete? Why are you doing this? Like, why? Like, because that's who I am. I'm an elite athlete. That's what I do. That's my purpose. That's what I'm aligned with, right? And when you're in that phase, the why, it's almost like silly. Like, why would you ask me that? Like, clearly you can see I'm an elite athlete. Or it's like asking an NBA player, like, why do you play basketball? It's like, because I'm an elite basketball player. I'm getting paid millions of dollars for this. It's my passion. It's what I do. It's who I am, right? Maybe it's not. You can fully chalk it up as who you are, but it's a part of your identity. It makes it's the reason you are the person you are today, right? And once we get to those shifts, once we kind of understand that's kind of, that becomes easier to do those actionable steps that we see in these videos, that we see in these books, that we see in these podcasts, right? And I think it's a very important thing. But yeah, thanks for joining. It kind of, these random, rambly, candid videos, I feel like, help kind of derive information easier. It feels like more of a conversation, in my opinion. Uh, it can be, a little bit scattered, but I think at the end of the day, it's good to obtain the knowledge, in this way, and where people can follow it in a more of a candid way rather than a structural lectured way, right? But yeah, thanks for stopping by again. Hope you're having a good day, and make sure you do the best you can, whatever whatever you do.
This is the voice of reason.